Good evening. I'm Pastor Tim Westermeyer, one of the pastors at St. Philip the Deacon Lutheran Church here in Plymouth, and on behalf of St. Philip the Deacon and Mount Olivet Lutheran Church, also in Plymouth, who jointly present these events, it's my privilege and pleasure to welcome you here tonight. A word about the flow of the evening. First of all, after we hear from our speaker, you'll have a chance to ask him some questions through an open mic, which it occurs to me we need to get for later, the wireless, if that's all right. And so be thinking about questions you'd like to ask him. And after that, you'll have a chance to meet him personally in the foyer, where you also have a chance to purchase some of his books, which he will be happy to inscribe for you. Over the last 7 years, a number of people have suggested speakers and topics to me. I think perhaps I would not be exaggerating, though, if I said that more than any other topic has been a question of, can you bring someone in who can talk to us about how Christianity relates to other religions or world religions? And people have phrased the question differently, but I've been on the lookout as a result of that question for speakers. And about this time last year, if I'm not mistaken, I ran across a review of one of our speakers' books, which is the Baker Pocket Guide to World Religion, written by someone that both he and I respect deeply. And the review said that the book is informed, balanced in its judgments, and very accessible in style. And I thought, sounds like our guy. And I wrote him, and he was kind enough to join us. He is a professor of religion at Roanoke College in Virginia. He is also the teaching pastor at St. John Lutheran Church, also in Roanoke. He's the author of many books about Jonathan Edwards and also books about interfaith dialogue. We are thrilled to have him tonight. Would you help me welcome Dr. Gerald McDermott?
Well, thank you very much for coming out on a Friday night. This is impressive, such a good crowd. And thank you, Tim, so much. Those of you who go to St. Philip's are with Pastor Tim and Pastor David are privileged. I've had a wonderful time interacting with Tim this last year or so. So I thank Pastor David and Pastor Tim for inviting me. And I commend them for trying to find somebody on this subject, because, you know, it used to be, back in the 80s, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, that the primary challenge facing Christians, were things like communism, atheism, materialism, but not anymore. Those are no longer the primary intellectual and sociological challenges of Christianity. Today it's the world religions. It really is the number one challenge to the Christian faith. And I see this as a college professor. My students aren't asking, why shouldn't I be an atheist? They aren't asking, well, why shouldn't I be a Marxist? Or why shouldn't I be a materialist? They're asking, why should I follow Jesus and not the Buddha? That's what they're asking. Why shouldn't I be a Taoist? And therefore, I'm glad that Pastor Westermeyer had the prescience to plan this occasion. Now, many non-Christians are scandalized because Christians say that Jesus is the only way to God. Non-Christians are also scandalized because some Christians say that only Christianity has truth. Non-Christians are also scandalized because some Christians say that only Christianity has goodness, that is, can make a person morally good. Now, I'm going to, in this short amount of time, I'm going to ask and try to answer 4 questions. First, is there truth in other world religions? Second, is there goodness in other world religions? In other words, do the other world religions make or can they make for moral goodness? Third, what is unique about the Christian faith when compared to the other world religions? And then finally, fourth, can non-Christians be saved? So, let's see what we can do in the next 40 minutes. First of all, the question, is there truth in other world religions? My answer is, yes, there is. Now let's take the most important religion in the world geopolitically today, Islam. Muslims say that there is a God. That's true. Now, how many of you know that some major world religions, some major religious founders say there is no God? The Buddha, for example, was for all practical purposes an atheist. Philosophical Taoism is a major world religion, it's a major religious tradition. It also says there is no personal God. The same thing for philosophical Hinduism. There is no personal infinite God. And no God as we know it, creator, sustainer, and redeemer. No. So Muslims are right when they say there is a God who's infinite and personal. Muslims are also right, we Christians have to say, when they say that God is one and not many. Muslims are death on polytheism. We Christians also have to say that Muslims are right and that Islam has truth when it says that God is moral. Now, some of you might not know that there are some religions in the world that say finally at the highest level of reality, there are no distinctions. For instance, philosophical Hinduism and philosophical Buddhism and philosophical Taoism, all in contradistinction from the religious popular versions of each, say that at the highest level of reality there are no distinctions, including the distinction between good and evil. So morality is only provisional. It's only sort of down here and temporary. Christians have to say that Muslims are right. Islam has truth when it says that morality is part of the ultimate order of things. It's not simply provisional. God is moral because he defines right, wrong, and truth and falsehood.